Hey guys, it's Ryan here with Hobbies and Man once again. Today I have some congestion, so if I sound a bit off, I apologize. And we're going to be looking at Fires of Heaven, Part 3, Chapters 29 through 42. And let's just jump into it because I don't really have any general thoughts about this portion of the story. So, it starts with Kadir reminiscing about his life, about his relationship with his sister, I think, if I remember correctly, and where he comes from. Isandre shows up. They end up having a chat about her failures. And what happens here is actually kind of the most chilling part of any of these books so far, where Kadir just calmly kills her. I think he suffocates her. And then the chapter just ends with him like dismembering her and kind of like hiding her away. And it's actually kind of horrifying. Like, this is probably the scariest thing or the most chilling thing that I've seen in these books so far. It's just kind of crazy how nonchalantly he does it, right? So really good stuff there. I don't like it necessarily, but it's really, really well done. So then we get to see Rand having a moment, maybe one of the last moments he will ever have to relax before the nobles from Kari and Intir show up. The Shaido are attacking, and Rand tells them to hold for 7 days. Again, this feels a little bit like Mantherin, but of course in this case, Rand will show up. Apparently something happens here where one of the Tyrian nobles tells Rand about a bet. And Rand's like, dude, I don't have anything to bet. And then it turns out that the Aiel are like, actually, you earn 10% of the fifth that we take. So you're actually the richest person in this camp, right? Which is kind of crazy. It's very cool. And then later, Rand accidentally walks into Avienda. This is one of those weird situations that I find in the book where it happens really often. And also, it's something that doesn't make too much sense to me, because she goes out of her way to get naked in front of him constantly. But the moment that she that he walks in on her by accident, she gets upset. Now, I understand the idea of like, on one hand she's consenting to it, and on the other she's not, and I understand that. But I feel like the reaction she has is a bit exaggerated for what it is, and it is immensely exaggerated here, and it actually brings up almost a little bit of a plot hole, or maybe like a little bit of an inconsistency with the magic system when she accidentally channels a gateway as opposed to a way gate to escape, and they actually end up on Shan-Chan land. I'm not really sure how she managed to get there, but that's not really the inconsistency here. What happens is that Rand follows her up into this wintry Shan-Chan area, and he's chasing her because she's naked. Then because she's not used to ice, she falls into a frozen river, and Rand has to get her out. Then he creates an igloo with the power, and he takes her in and takes care of her. This is when they realize they like each other, and then they have a love scene. The scene is obviously fade to black because Robert Jordan, as much as he likes putting in his like little bits of fetish shit here and there, he doesn't actually get into anything serious when it comes to sex scenes and stuff like that, right? So they discuss marriage, but Avienda gets upset, and I think this is when she feels she's incurred tow with Elaine because she broke the promise that she made to Elaine, but also because of her culture, there might be a way to get out of it, and it kind of builds up Avienda's situation, and also changes the dynamic between her and Rand quite a bit. So I like this moment. Then they get up and they start going back to the gate, which Rand managed to maintain. He managed to seal it in a certain way so that he could access it. And we turn. This is when they realize that they're in Shan-Chan because they see these weird people and these people that can channel that have collars on them and stuff, right? So they have a little bit of a fight here, and then they manage to escape through the Waygate, and it turns out that Asmodean was actually hiding it from view by shifting the by shifting the world around them through the weaves. Now, the inconsistency here is that Rand could have immediately returned to the Aiel Waste or to Carrion because he knows how to open one of these already. He's done it before. He can do the skimming thing that he did at the end of the last book when he goes to Rhuidean immediately, right? And later, he does it a lot in the later books and in later parts of the story. So this whole kind of tension that develops here, and the whole part where they're in the igloo and when they realize their feelings for each other and stuff, that stuff shouldn't have happened because Rand knows how to travel long distances with the power already. So I like the stuff that happened, but I don't like that the magic was used inconsistently just to make the scene work. Now, maybe I'm understanding it incorrectly, but I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure Rand mentions before that once he knows how to do something once, or once he remembers how to do something, he doesn't forget how to do it. And so he's aware of how to do something, which is basically the same thing as this. As far as I understand it, skimming is the same as opening a a gateway. And so, one, he didn't have to hold it open, and two, he could have immediately returned Avienda to somewhere warmer and could have skipped all of these situations here, right? So I don't like that inconsistency there because it doesn't match with what I understood of the book. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it is what it is, right? So, and then Rand manages to get a piece of a Shanshan lance or spear, and this turns into the Dragon Scepter. So that's cool. That's pretty interesting. Maybe we'll see that in the show. Maybe we won't. I'm not really sure, but Then we go over to Nynaeve, who is turned into a throwing target in Luca's circus, and the girls exchange some information in Tel Riyadh, and then Massima, who was a Shinaran, one that wasn't really that great. When I remember the Shinarans, I think of Uno, and I think of Hurin or something, the guy that could smell violence, and Engomar, and there was another one. The guy that ended up being a dark friend in book 3. I can't remember. But I remember those guys. I didn't really remember Massima. And it turns out that Massima is crazy, man. He became this weird religious zealot, this cult leader called the Prophet in Samara. And then there's this woman called Aludra, who is a illuminator, I think, someone that works with fireworks, and she creates matches, and she gives a bunch of them to Nynaeve, and I'm not really sure what the point of this is, because they haven't come into play yet, but also, it's kind of cool to see this moment of innovation that we're, distinctly aware of, but I don't really understand why it was such a big thing. Like, there were several chapters here that mention her box of matches quite a few times, so I'm not really sure what the point of it is, but what happens later is that Elaine has managed to crack Terangriel creation, sort of, by reverse engineering the Adam, as far as I understand it, the necklace that stops people from using the power. And then Nynaeve ends up in Tel Riyadh and meets with Brigitte, and they talk about Moghedien, and then they watch her watch a meeting, and then Moghedien attacks, and they have this crazy battle. Brigitte and Nynaeve are actually losing this time, and I'm not really sure what the difference is. Maybe it's because they're in Tel Riyadh, and as far as I remember, Moghedien is better at the dreaming than Lanfear. Lanfear calls herself the Queen of the Dreams, but as far as I understand it, I think Moghedien mentions that even though Lanfear has the title, Moghedien is better at it because of the way that she functions as a person. She's much better at it because she has played with it more, right? So I'm guessing that's the difference here, but also it is eventually her downfall as well. So yeah, they battle. Magidian wins, and she mentally breaks Nynaeve. Nynaeve's changes start to happen rather rapidly after here, where Nynaeve basically realizes that she is not strong enough, that she does not have the skills necessary, but also that she's actually deadly afraid. And it's something that she hadn't really ever confronted before, and this actually makes it very difficult for her. And I think the worst part is that it happens with an enemy that has already been defeated by Nynaeve. So Nynaeve feels like she's great, she's amazing because she managed to beat Magidian, but then Magidian comes back and beats her way harder, and this makes Nynaeve break a lot. So I like this part of the story quite a bit. Then we get to see Liandrin get beat by Magidian when Magidian returns to the waking world and interacts with her Black Aja members, and Liandrin is sealed from the source, basically. And she's not sealed, no one does that to her, but a cage is woven around her so tightly that she cannot access anything anymore. So she can still feel it, but not being able to use it, it's gonna drive her crazy, basically. And it's kind of insane, but it's cool how that works, right? So, yeah. Then Brigitte is sent back to the real world before her time, and now there's an issue, right? Because she's not someone that's supposed to be there. She's intrinsically tied to the Horn of Valir and to the pattern, to the wheel, and so she's out of sync with it now. Is this a problem? Is this good? Is this bad? No one knows, but it's actually affecting Brigitte so much that she's about to die. And so Elaine bonds her in order to bring her strength. And this works out really well. And it also kind of mildly foreshadows something that happens later in another book. So overall, really, really good stuff here. I quite like it. Then they have their big performance. Then Uno appears. He talks about the prophet, about the Shenarans, and Nynaeve goes with him to meet Massima. And, well, it doesn't go that well because Massima's crazy. But she gets him to think about the idea of procuring her a ship. And so this happens. Then she and Uno and another guy, I can't remember who, end up walking into Galad. And then she gets Galad to get her a ship too. And so she has two different people working on the same thing. It's kind of a problem, right? So, yeah, then she finally learns where they're supposed to go. She remembers Sally Dar, thanks to some like Taviran level bullshit, where she remembers because Galad mentions it offhandedly. And I quite like that. But also, I feel like it's a little bit too coincidental, and it's so coincidental that even Nynaeve mentions it, or one of the people that she talks to mentions it. And so if maybe Nynaeve was a Taviran, it would have worked. Which I think is something that they did for the show, but also sometimes things just happen, and because Nynaeve and Elaine and Tom are part of the pattern, they're intrinsically linked with Rand and Matt and Perrin. Maybe Taviran power works through them, even if they're leagues and leagues away. So it works out, but it's a little bit too coincidental, right? So yeah, and then Rand is dealing with some asshole nobles. Then he goes up into this big watchtower with these telescopes that he commissioned from this Karianan scholar guy. Or actually, I don't think he's a scholar. He's a glass worker who happens to be inclined towards functional glassmaking. So he gets this guy to build him a big telescope tower. They go up it, and we learn of some of the plans that Rand has for this battle in Carrion. So apparently, Rand, Avienda, and Egwene are going to use the power during the battle. Then Matt accidentally shows his skills at battle planning when he's called into Rand's tent, and Rand waits outside, sends in Lan, and then Lan and Matt talk, and they basically get to the same plan that had already been previously established, but Matt did it immediately, and so they use this to verify that the plan will work, and then Matt leaves. And this is where the story ends for now, and overall, I had a good time with this. At this point in the story, I am liking Nynaeve and Elaine's story the most. I'm not really finding Rand's part of the story super interesting, and at this point in the story, with that kind of inconsistency there with the magic system, with the gateways, I wasn't really feeling that part of the story. It was like, okay, this kind of inconsistency feels huge. Why did no one catch this? And it kind of made me like not interested in this part of the story. But the Elaine and Nynaeve stuff is really, really good. However, like I mentioned, I feel like on a reread, this is not going to be a very fun part of the story. So we'll see, in a few years when I decide to reread the story. So yeah, that's it for The Fires of Heaven Part 3. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you guys later.